figure is full of exertion and energy, of hard work, of determination and commitment. And the kind of images that women were used to, or sorry, that people were used to in England of women were images like this. You know, this is painted in the same year in the same city, Lady Killigrew. You know, it's a rather saucy painting because her top is very low cut, but still it's formal, it's posed, it's stiff. This is what Britain was used to, not this. Suddenly entering the royal collection, we have this highly dynamic woman. I really feel this painting takes the concept of dynamism and bravado to the absolute extremes, but it's more than that. There's more to it than just what I've said so far, because I mentioned earlier that this was a self-portrait of Artemisia, but what does that mean? Because this is a woman who is painting, so clearly more of Artemisia's own self is here than the other images that we've seen of her where she's dressed up as St. Catherine or Cleopatra. But this face is not Artemisia's face. Where is that bump in her nose? Where is the cleft in her chin? Where are those round cheeks? There is a suggestion of Artemisia here with her long brown hair, but not Artemisia herself. And also, by the way, she would have been 45 years old at this point, and really she looks like a girl of 18. So what is she up to? It is believed that Artemisia here, in another brilliant piece of PR, is representing herself as the allegory of painting. So this becomes not so much a physical self-portrait, more a spiritual self-portrait. The allegory of painting was a relatively common subject in which artists could show off the epitome of painting. Perhaps a little bit like that image of inclination that I showed you earlier on. Now, she would have known about Cesare Ripa's Iconologia, in which he talks extensively about what the features of this allegory should look like. And you probably looked at this quote already. He talks about her full black hair that's disheveled with a chain of gold at her throat. And in her hand, she holds a brush and in the other a palette, etc. And Artemisia has picked up on this explanation of the allegory and has morphed it into the idealized version of her own features. Therefore, this becomes a depiction of the essence of her art, as well as the essence of her. The boundaries are blurring, the boundaries between truth and reality. She's telling us that she is art. She's taking what she did with inclination and making it her own. She's owning it. And it's a brilliant stroke of genius that would have utterly charmed the very sophisticated Charles I. It's just a manifesto in paint, a piece of performance art. It's a kind of shout of passion, more powerful for me than any of the beheading scenes. Using what she had and making the most of it. By being the underdog, by being a woman, this wasn't going to stop her from doing what she wanted. And she said to one of her patrons in a letter, "You'll find the spirit of Caesar in the soul of a woman." And that just feels so right. She was a soldier, she was a fighter, and she used her face, not just because she was beautiful, but like an expert businesswoman, she understood that self-representations from a female hand was singular, something to be discussed by her patrons. And she cannily worked her way into the homes of all those who mattered. She wrote to one of her most important patrons saying that she would send him her self-portrait to hang in his distinguished picture gallery. And by this, she intended to place herself alongside the most renowned painters of the day, not just for the 17th century, but of all art history. She was totally empowered, and this painting says it all. And what's so wonderful about this, what's so wonderful about her, is that while her story went underground a little bit and then got lost in the kind of gritty mists of the rape, she's now re-emerged and she's exploded onto the contemporary scene and tells us how a woman could be successful, not just in the Baroque period, but also today, how to use what you have to your maximum potential. And her story echoed with the feminist movements, particularly in the 1970s, and particularly in a show that happened in America in 1976, which was featuring a whole load of women artists who really hadn't been represented properly up until that point. It resonated, of course, with the Me Too movement. In fact, I don't know whether any of you remember, but during the Brett Kavanaugh case, she popped up on Twitter time and time and time and time again. But also right now, she is a compelling example of how to overcome adversity. During the press launch for the National Gallery show, Gabriella Finaldi likened Artemisia's life story to what we are all experiencing now during this relentless COVID pandemic. She was a fighter, she overcame adversity, and 400 years on, this amazing woman provides inspiration for us all and reminds us to keep on fighting.